Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is David from Daveden Web Dev, and on this channel I like to talk about all things WordPress, especially about accessibility and dynamic data. And today we'll just be vibing together. It's not really a tutorial today. Today is just me rambling most of the time, talking about accessibility. So I want to hear your thoughts. There's been a recent talk. A lot of people have been talking about a few things in the recent weeks about this concept of vibe coding or no coding or whatever it's called, no code web development. And yeah, it's a fun topic. Hi, Toby. Thank you for joining in. Please let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me properly, so that I don't just go talking to myself this time. But yeah, so what's up, everybody? How are we all doing? Hi, Jimmy. Thank you for joining in. Hi, Toby. Hi, every other person that is joining in. Thank you very much. And yeah, so we'll just be talking more about this whole concept of the no code, full code, web developer, web designer, and all of that sort of topic. And I would just like to hear your thoughts about the whole issue because yeah, everybody has their own their own understanding. Hi, Odinaka, Joshua. Thank you for joining in. Yeah, we need to plan the live stream about the chess. I've been losing a lot of games recently, so I think I'm no longer as confident in playing chess as I used to be. But yeah, it's going to be fun. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, that's a good question. Is there any reason why I didn't use my other channel? Uh, yeah. So I want to keep the other channel away from drama. So that channel is going to be more for tutorials and focused on teaching. Whereas this other channel is me just talking about everything I can think about. Anything that comes to mind, I'll talk about it. And it'll be more unfiltered. The other channel is going to be more focused towards like tutorials about breaks, breakdowns, build areas, Elementor, and whichever one comes to mind at that time. So yeah, that's the whole idea. But yeah, so I just wanted to even know about what each person thinks about the whole concept because I don't know, it has been floating around a lot. This whole argument, I don't, should there even be an argument in the first place with all of these no code or low code or full code web development? Is there supposed to be any argument? I'm not sure. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. So the first thing we'll be talking about, let me just switch my screen so we can see basically an overview of what we'll be talking about. So basically, we'll be talking about the difference between a web designer and a web developer. Then we'll just talk about the no code, low code, full code web development. Then, who is a professional web developer? And to what extent do clients actually care about the tools that we use? And finally, you should please join the chat with Matt Mullerberg. It will be happening next Thursday, I believe. Yeah, next Thursday. I'll leave a link to it in the description and in the comments. Let me just drop it in the comments now. If I can find where my comments are. So you'll be able to chat with Matt Mullenberg about the past, present, and future of accessibility in WordPress. So we get to learn a bit about what is Matt's own vision for accessibility in WordPress, because everybody has their own vision, and Matt is the co-founder of WordPress, so he has the most technical know-how and or like the most knowledge of where WordPress is heading towards. So he should give us his own concept or his own idea of what does he even think about accessibility, because all of us have different ideas about accessibility. So hopefully we can go ahead and ask questions. Hopefully, I'm hoping that people don't go and start talking about, all the things that have been happening recently. All of the, I'm not going to say too much about it, but all of the lawsuits and things that have been happening around. So hopefully people forget about that and focus on the topic of the day, which is that we're chatting with Matt Mullenberg about the past, present, and future of accessibility. So, yeah. Anyway, okay, so going back, the first thing is the difference between a web designer and a web developer. So, I don't know, what are your thoughts? What do you think is the difference between a web designer and a web developer? Because I think that concept is something that everybody has a different like idea about, and there's been so much arguments because I remember I saw it on X where Reno says he's a no-code developer, and then they said no, he's a designer, not a developer, and all of that talk. So before we even go, let me even check something like, let's try and ask Gemini or one of these tools. I think, is this the pro version? Let's see. I believe it's the pro version. Okay, so what is the difference between a web designer and a web developer? Oh, okay, still low. Oh, interesting. Hello. Is it still working? I'm not even sure where my sound is right now. Is the sound still okay? I've increased the sound a little bit, so let me know. Is it better? I think I've increased it to the highest that I can. So let me know if the sound is okay. If it's still too low, let me know in the comments so that we can answer. Okay, web developer. Okay, so because of my eyesight, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so it sounds okay. And yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So let me reduce it a little. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I removed my camera for a bit because I wanted to not cover anything from the text. So it said the core difference between a web designer and a web developer lies in their primary focus. Designers focus on the look and feel, which is the aesthetics of and user experience, while developers focus on the code and functionality that makes the website work. Okay? So think of it like building a house. The designer is like the architect. Okay? So that means they create the blueprints, determine the aesthetics, color, materials, everything, and plan how a person will move through the house. So that's like the user flow, the user experience. Whereas the developer is like the construction crew. They take the blueprints and use technical skills to construct the actual functional structure. So, yeah, the web designer, he focuses on the visual design, and they say the common skills is things like Adobe, is it Adobe or Adobe? I don't know. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Photoshop, Illustrator, Figma. They do color theory, typography. Then they might have basic knowledge of HTML and CSS. But the idea is that the web designer creates sort of like the what is going to happen on the website. Is like the architect. They don't actually build the website. They just give you the design. So I think most of us always say that thing. We always say we get the design or the Figma file from a designer. So that is a web designer. A web designer focuses on the design. A web developer builds the website. So if you build a website, I think technically you are a developer. Whether you are a good developer or a bad developer, that is another question. But a web developer is a programmer who translates the designer's vision into a fully functional website using code. But in this case, nowadays, things have moved or have improved that we can now build the website without having to write the code ourselves. But in the end, we are still building the code. The only thing is that now we are relying more on the tools to build the code for us. But in the end, we are still the ones building the code. So the moment you're building the code, you are technically a developer. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a good developer or a bad developer, you are a developer. So that is just my own thoughts. So I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, you see, I think WordPress blurred the line between the two of them a long time ago. So yeah. So that's the whole idea, like from the whole thing. So and then a developer, if you continue reading on, it tells you that okay, that the web developer is now the one in terms of the front end. You can think of the back end, and then you can think of a full stack developer. That's where you now think of developers are now in three versions. There's the front end developer, the back end developer, and the full stack developer. Most of us who are visual developers are more front end. They don't really know much about the back end, but they are still developers. So yeah. The architect does way more. Yeah, technically, yes, the architect does more, but in the end, an architect still does something similar because you are basically focused on an architect will not like give you the final structure. They will give you like a prototype, like they give you a small prototype, like I did when I was doing my masters. We did a small prototype of RFID system. No, not my masters, my undergraduate, and I actually worked with an architect. He did the prototype for me, and then I built out the full structure. So yeah, so that's the whole idea that that's one of the things that just keeps getting us like all riled up. I don't know why. All of these are just semantics, but technically, designers build the design, but they don't build the website. The website is built by a developer. So, however you build the website is not the main topic, but is that the website is built. And like I showed from the whole discussion or the Gemini, we have multiple types of developers. There are people who are focused on the front end. There are people who are focused on the back end, like one of my cousins. She's a back end developer. That's what she does, fully into back end. Then there are people who are full stack developers. They work on both the front end and the back end. And there are others. So that within that front end developer, we now have the different types. We have the no code developers, the low code developers, and the full code developers, and things like that. So yeah. Okay, so it says architects do calculations also. Yeah, same thing with designers as well. Designers also do calculations, like the web designers. They when you're building in Figma, they are supposed to calculate. Sometimes some of them don't do it, but at least they're supposed to calculate so many things for you, tell you how much the width of the content, how much content you should put on each page, and so many other things. Everything is done by the designer, and you just take that blueprint that they've done and put it into the front end. But like Toby said, the lines have been blurred a long time ago. Nowadays, designers do the work of developers, developers do the work of designers, content writers do the work of. So everybody does every duty. Whereas in the past, or at least in larger organizations, like my cousin, she works in an insurance company, and there is a larger organization, and they are split. They have the business side, they have the content writers, they have the back-end developers, the front-end developers. They have a full range of. Each department is split into different sections. Whereas nowadays in the WordPress ecosystem, most of us tend to do everything together. We do everything, yeah. And so all these terminologies are just things. So now the second question, yeah, is now the question of the no code versus low code versus the full code development. And I think let me just see from IBM. I actually didn't read what they wrote, but yeah, technically they said. Let me see. Let me zoom it out a little. Okay, no, my eyes can't read that much. So the no code is a software development approach that enables users to create applications and automate business processes without writing code. That means they said it uses visual interface and drag and drop tools that enable non-technical users to build functional software with little to no programming knowledge. The power of no-code development lies in its ability to democratize software creation and empower the line of business users to quickly develop solutions that are tailored to their specific needs. For example, consider a marketing team that is looking to build a customer survey app using a no-code platform. They can assemble the app in hours instead of weeks, or by dragging and dropping modules. So all of these things now, yeah. Okay, okay, yeah. I can see a comment by Erna. He says the problem is not no code. It's not code versus no code, but the way some people teach and ask money for it. I Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, I get it. I agree that I think, yeah, that's one of the questions that was asked, right, by, I believe it's Kevin, that said, should you build a website? No, should you be a website building teacher or something? Like, I can't remember how the question was put in, without knowing code. And yeah, there was a long debate about that. uh, I'm not in a good position to really uh, argue either way, but I believe we should have teachers that teach every aspect. So teachers that teach about no code development, about low code development, about full code development. Ideally, everybody should know code, but the when you are teaching, sometimes you may not, because you have to decide the market of people you are trying to like reach out to. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I remember, my friends can remember 2 years ago or so, I was so like attacking everybody. Oh, why don't you know this code? Why don't you know CSS? Why don't you know accessibility? Um, how can you be a web developer without knowing accessibility and all of that? But then when I started attending a lot of these word meetups, these WordPress meetups, like the Elementor meetup, the UK Elementor meetup, the US or the Global Elementor meetup, I am attending the UK WordPress meetup, and so on. You start to realize that there are a wide range of people that build websites. Some are amateurs, some are DIYers, some are professional web designers or web developers. Some are the so different levels. Everybody is a different level. So if you're only focused on teaching a certain level, you'll be alienating a lot of other people. And like, I've attended a lot of accessibility meetups, and there's that question of, okay, how accessible are you if you are alienating a lot of your audience? Are you really being accessible anymore if you're trying to alienate everybody because you want everybody to follow a single point of like a single path? Then how are you really helping people, or you're just like forcing people? Because the idea is that there should be the concept of choice. Choice is the one of the most fundamental things in life. You have to always give people choices. So telling everybody that they must like use code, or they must not use code, either way, it's not really nice. You should like give them choices. And so rather than attacking people who are full code tutors or people who are no code tutors, I think we should just try to find a balance in the whole situation. Yeah, so that you're not just going one way or the other. Just try to find a balance, and everybody should coexist. And that's what I think. But yeah, let me look at the comments. Hmm. Yeah, okay. So yeah, a student does not need to be able to do it all himself, but he should know that it is possible. True. Yeah. And Toby says, I think a person does not need to code to learn the principles of building correctly, the principles and build correctly. So yeah, I think in this new era, with all of the advancements in the visual builders, the what they call these vibe coding and all of these things, nowadays there is less need to know code to build a functional website. Because at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We are trying to build a functional website. The reason why we need to learn code is to go beyond what is the limitation of the page builder. But at the surface, you can literally build a website, a functional working website, without knowing a single line of code. Similar to an example I told my friends a few days ago about how a lot of us use all of these video editors like DaVinci Resolve, we use Premiere Pro and After Effects and all of these visual builders or visual editors. But did you know that you can also write code even inside of those what's it called? Those video editors. And most of these professionals, they tend to write code in the editor. But for the most part, you don't really need to write code. You can just literally put in your video, you edit, cut, and add some transitions, use some tools like a plugins, add transitions and everything, and you build a beautiful video. But if you want to go further and try to like tweak everything to your own perfection, then you need code. So yeah, code is important, but it's like for a basic site, you can survive without actually even knowing any line of code or writing code, because the only thing that you have to consider is that the page builder has to do a lot more work for you, but then you can actually survive and not write code. Yeah. So yeah, there's a Odinaka says that I agreed with you that a lot of this is just semantics. Toby made a lot of good points in his article, and Kevin too. My sentiment about these professional tools is that they are in fact low code. Yeah. So that's the okay, I actually agree. Most of the tools that we use are low code tools because they try to blur the lines between visual and writing code. They give you the visual editor first, which you can use for most of your design. But then when you want to now do something more, you can now go underneath the hood and then they'll give you access to like a panel or something to write code. Each of these builders, they all have different like layers or levels, and there's always that argument. Like I was speaking to when the page builder accessibility. Let me see if I can pull it up. Page builder accessibility um report came out. There was that comment that somebody mentioned that okay, how in terms of accessibility, like if you give people so much freedom, what is the potential, what is the like the probability that they are going to go wrong? And I think it was Amber Hines that said it, that the more freedom you give people, the higher the potential for them to break the site. Which is why there's always that problem that okay, should you lock down everything and give users that let the page builder be the one to do most of the heavy lifting, or should you reduce the heavy lifting from the page builder and let the user be the one that like does all of the work? There's always that difficulty. But yeah, let me read some of the other comments. And okay, so Toby says that okay, that I think there is actually nothing like no code in WordPress if the definition will strictly be that code should not be touched. And yeah, no, I think there are some no code tools. I don't know. I think is it Drip or one of those. Some of those page builders literally lock down everything that you can't write code. But for the most part, you can write code. There is most of the page, even Gutenberg. When we think about it, if you really think about it, even Gutenberg, because Gutenberg is so extensible, meaning that you can actually write code. How you write the code is something that everybody has to make their own choice, because with Gutenberg, if you want to write, like you want to add, I know I've spoken to Erna a lot of times, and we've had that argument of how hard it is to actually put like change some button styles in green light or whatever, green shift, where you have to put, if you want to write like full code, you need to now go to your theme.json file, you now add your variables there, then you can now access that variable through the builder. So you are technically writing code, but it's not directly in the builder. You have to go through a different place, like through the editor, and then you go into the theme.json file and you include all of your styles or your variables, your classes in there, or block variations or whatever you want to do. And then you now go back to Gutenberg and access the variables. You can also just add some plugins like block CSS. I can't remember what it's called, pattern CSS or something, and then you can write inline CSS to any block you want. So technically, nothing is really no code, or at least for the most part, none of them are really no code. Just that they have levels, like I've mentioned, they have different levels that they allow you to access code in the builder. So yeah, because even with the presets in Gutenberg, all of those presets are written by the theme. So you can literally just go to your theme, go to the theme.json, and add more presets if you want, like color presets, um, uh, text presets, any kind of preset you want. You can create it in the theme.json file, and it will be usable anywhere on the website. So those things about no code, none of them are really no code. Just that we term it that way, and yeah. But then there is this other thing that people that have been talking about, and that is this vibe coding of a thing. How many of us are actually vibe coders? Like, you rely fully on AI to build your code for you? Because somebody, we were in our, that's a funny thing as well. Okay, let me clear out. Sorry, I forgot to clear out the comments. Last month, we had our meetup in the UK WordPress meetup, and we were talking about the influence of AI in web development, and people were talking about how the influence of, or the impact of AI, and it was a nice, lovely, lively discussion, and we were there was this ideology that is AI making us dumber, or is improving our lives? Like, it's a uh, is it making us, because the problem is, I've seen a few tutorials on the internet where people are vibe coding, and I'm looking at the code and I'm like, wow, this code it works, it's good, it works, but when you think about it from an accessibility standpoint, you are like, nah. In fact, let me see if I can pull up one of the videos from, I think it was WP Builds. I think that's where Joe Dolson and Nathan Wrigley, they talked about one code that was built by what's his name, Puto Press, and he said he vibe coded an accessible website. He told the whatever, the AI, to make him make the website accessible, and they were going through so many of the things, and it wasn't accessible basically. So the AI was just adding code from 1987. No, sorry, no, let me not lie. For, like I said, the 2000s, then combining it with code from the 2005 code plus some other hallucinations and things like that. It was working, but, well, it wasn't really going to be passable by any screen reader user. So let me see, Joe Dolson. I'll put it in the comments. Let's see. The accessibility is the name of the show is called The Accessibility Show, and I can't remember what it was, the exact one, but I'll just put that playlist so that people can go ahead and check out the playlist. Let's see if I can find playlists. The Accessibility Show with Joel Dolson. Okay, so I think this was it. Was it this? No, that was the other one. So I can't remember which exact. Okay, yeah, AI. Can AI create an accessible website? Yeah, that's the name of the video. Let me switch it, and I'll put it in the comments. So it was a video. There's no sound, don't worry. But basically, they were going through a site that was built, and it was claimed that the site was accessible. But then when Joe Dolson, who is like one of the core contributors to WordPress accessibility, so he really knows about accessibility. That is his day job. He works on the accessibility of WordPress itself, as well as so many different open source projects. So he was going through the whole site and he was just showing how so many things were inaccessible. But with the AI will be like, oh yeah, it's accessible. Everything is all good. And one thing about AI is every time, depending on how you ask the question, AI will give you an answer that it's like trying to suit your ego. So, like I remember there was a comment that Toby made about one of the what's it called? The polls that was created recently, and there was that comment that if you ask a leading question to AI will give you an answer that will suit your ego, no matter what. So, depending on how you ask a question, you will get a response that you get a different response depending on how you ask a question. Basically, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So Aina says, I don't understand the whole concept of vibe coding and live streaming it. I can't see any teachable moment in it. I did watch Reno doing it, and after about 3 minutes, I could not watch it anymore. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to watch people do vibe coding. Even I, I use I use AI, but sometimes I just wonder like, should I really continue using the AI as much as I do? Like, it makes you not even try anymore. Sometimes some people don't try because I was watching one of the somebody's stream. I'm not going to mention any names, but basically, he was doing live builds, how he was going to build a website, and for the most part, he was just relying on AI. And I'm like, do you even really are you even reading the code that this AI is outputting for you to you? Because after a while, I think it makes us so reliant on AI that we don't even read the code. We think we are reading the code, but we're literally just like fully dependent on AI for everything that we don't even some of us don't even remember how to write code. We don't remember how to write CSS and all of those things. But yeah, it's a it's something that happens. But yeah, let me see. So that's the whole idea of this concept of no code, like low code, full code developer. I believe we all should strive to be full code developers. But I wouldn't really like put down any teacher that teaches any of the other concepts. I would just, whenever I see any of their mistakes, what I will suggest you do is okay, when you see them going astray or making a mistake, reach out to them privately. Because that's my biggest flaw. That a lot of the like content creators, I remember with Imran and some other content creators, I was always like being public shaming is not really a nice thing. It's you feel like you are helping the person, but all you're just doing is that you are hurting the person. You're not really helping the person anyway if you're doing public shaming. So that's thanks to Anne. That's why I don't really do much public shaming anymore. Sometimes I may forget and I still do it, but that's not intentional. But I try my best to not do public shaming anymore because Anne told me her own experience and how it's you will get further with somebody if you and him can have like a private discussion and just discuss about the things. Okay, here is a better way to do XYZ. I know you're trying to be a low code developer or like trying to show that we don't need code, but in this instance, maybe code might be better in that instance. But the moment you both of you go public with it, it's just going to be a battle of egos, and nobody is actually going to learn anything from that whole concept. It's just going to be creating division. There'll be now be party A versus party B. Forever there'll be that divide. Instead of having that union, there'll be a divide forever, and that's it. Yeah. Exactly. Like the most important part is asking the right questions and ask people around you. That's the best thing. Like if you are struggling with something, ask before you answer, like before you like even all these tutorials. Like I saw a tutorial recently about accessibility, and the person was showing how to add, I believe, aria label in Elementor, but he was doing it wrong. And initially I was going to be like, oh, let me publicly go and attack him. But then I spoke to a few friends and then they were able to calm me down and said, no, that's not the right way to approach it. Instead, he's your friend. Speak to him privately. Say, this is a better way to do it. Then he can come out maybe in a new video and say, oh, thanks to, he can even appreciate you in that video and say, okay, thanks to this person, here is a better way to do X, Y, Z, and both of you will become friends in the end. Both of you will gather the respect of both audiences, and life moves on. But the moment one starts publicly shaming the other one, then both audiences will just forever have that divide. My audience against your audience, and that's how it's going to be, with nobody really learning everything, and people will now become worse instead of getting better. They'll just be worse because they now have that superiority complex from either side. One will have superiority complex, the other one will have another kind of complex or whatever, and then life just becomes worse. But yeah. Uh okay, so I actually don't mind being corrected in public. In fact, I find a person who can't admit to a mistake very repulsive. Yeah, I think it is a, what's it called, it's it depends. Depending on how you approach that comment, like, there's a way you can approach publicly correcting somebody that will make the person go defensive, and there is a way you can approach correcting the person and the person will thank you for it. So it all depends on your approach, on how you say it out. If you say it in a kind of like a condescending tone, like a harsh condescending tone, there's that fight or flight reaction. Everybody has that reaction. The moment you attack me, I will either go and hide or I will fight back. That is that. But if you come with it with a kind of a win-win type of situation of comment, then the person will willingly accept your correction and say, "Oh, thank you. I did not notice this. Can you? Thank you for helping me." Although some people are just adamant that they'll never want to learn anything, because there are some people I've tried to reach out to, and they're always out for, no, it's either my way or the highway. You can't deviate from my way and all of that. Yeah, but yeah. So that's the whole talk about the low code, and then the next one is another topic, which is, who is a professional web developer? That sounds, that word professional, I think it has caused a lot of animosity, or whatever word it is in English, uh, because because saying, oh yeah, some people are not professionals. So let's look at the English definition of professional. Let's see if we can find it. I think I searched for it just before going live. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that I can see easily. So yeah, we have a professional. So if it's used as an adjective, it means that you are engaged in a specific activity that as one's main paid occupation rather than as a pastime. So is it a professional boxer? Same thing with a professional web developer. The moment you say I'm a professional web developer, that means what that entails at the end of the day is that this is my main paid occupation. I'm not doing it as a hobby. I'm doing it as my occupation. So the moment somebody is doing something as his occupation, he's a professional. Then there are other ways to look at it. Okay, then you say worthy of or appropriate to a professional person, as a competent, skillful, or assured. So if you use it in a different tone, like, okay, their music is both memorable and professional, then that means that, okay, it now means that, okay, it is skillful, it is competent, and all of that. So, but when you say I'm a professional web developer, it means that that is your profession. That is what you do for a living. So yeah, I think that's my own conclusion to it. There are other definitions of professional, but I think when you use it as an adjective, then it means that it is what you're doing for a living. So saying this person is not a professional, just because he's not writing code himself, I would say it is not it's not, I won't agree with that. But yeah, I agree that if it is going to be your profession to build websites, then you should like put in the effort to learn as much as you can, which means learn how to build accessible, secure, high performance websites. Being a professional, being like the best, or like being getting better in web design is not only about writing the HTML code, but it also entails other things. So making sure that your website is secure. So learn about security, learn about performance, learn about accessibility. So learn the whole package. Don't just attack people for not knowing how to write code, because web design or web development is it's an entire package of so many different things combined. But yeah, okay, so and Aina says the best way to approach, like okay, asking about, that's when you're asking a question. So the best way to approach is ask why they do it that way. That forces them to explain their way of thinking, and then you can now give them a better contribution. Okay, why not do it this other way? There is a better way you can do it. Because like I always say about building any layout, the people are always like, oh, like when I talk about sections and containers, everybody's always like, oh, there should be a section, and then there should be a padding on the section, and then there should be a container. But people like Kevin Powell have already proven that it doesn't have to be that way. There are so many ways. You can use CSS grid to make your container to be in a content width. You can use max width on the actual container itself to make the container to be a boxed width. So there are so many different ways, and as CSS evolves, there will still be even more ways. So telling people that this is the only way to do it is not nice. So say this is the way I found that works best for me, but you don't have to like specify that that is the best way for everybody, because everything is like is context aware. That sometimes in some contexts one thing might be better, in other contexts that thing might have some limitations. So there's nothing really that is like foolproof that this is the only way to do XYZ. There's always going to be some like a different way, basically. So yeah, yeah. Exactly. Or like Toby says, it's not just because you're a low code developer doesn't mean that you should not just stay there, because uh you should not be lazy. You should always keep improving, keep getting better, keep like asking questions, ask the right questions, keep learning. Yeah, don't just, whether you're a full code developer, no code developer, whatever code developer, you just have to keep learning. If you're not learning, you are going backward. So you have to keep improving your skills. Don't just rely on what you've known for 5 years ago and think that that's the only way that will keep working forever. There will always be improvements, which is one reason why I like Kevin Powell, Kevin Geary, and every other person that is always trying to get on top of the matter. So like in terms of like colors, now color space, you see he's trying to, I saw a post, I don't know where I saw it, or whether it was on, somebody shared it with me or on X, I can't remember, but he was talking about how he's now refactoring his color space for his ACSS to be now using OKLCH. I think OKLCH is the right way to go. I'm not sure how the compatibility is yet, because I remember I had issues with Right Place. When I opened Right Place, I'm not sure what browser Right Place uses, but Right Place browser does not parse the colors correctly if you use OKLCH. So that means there are some browsers that will still not parse your OKLCH properly, especially like older browsers. So I will be mindful of using the cutting edge technology, but just keep it in mind. Always keep like listening to what is the latest version of everything and improve that way. But yeah, so this is how life continues, and we just try to make sure that we are always improving, we're always getting better, we're not sticking to our old ways of doing anything. Life just keeps moving. So the I think then the last thing that was on the list is the fact that to what extent do clients care about the tools you use? That's another question that has been floating around. Like, okay, oh, my clients must, like, they must, my clients care about my plugins and my tools. In reality, do the clients really? So I think I think maybe it's the words we're using. Maybe not care, but maybe something else. But the clients don't really, like, they want you to use the best tools for the job, but not all of them are not technical enough to know what tools you're using. So like this, for enterprise level people, many of them don't really know what tools they're using. All they want to know is that, is the end result going to be good? So make sure that your end result is good. It is accessible. It is performant. It is secure. That is the bottom line that the HR manager, sorry, not the HR, the whatever, the CEO and all of those tech execs are looking for. They are looking for a website that does the job. Is the website getting the clients? Is the website getting the leads and all of that? That is what they are really focused on. So the whole concept is a bit skewed. Like, asking that, oh, do clients really care about the tools you use? Yes and no. They care that you are using the right tools for the job, but they don't really, some of them don't really know what tools they're using. Only few of them will say, okay, they've heard from their previous developer that they're using Elementor or they're using Divi or something, and then they ask you to use that same tool. But many of them don't really know the impact. It is now your job to tell them, okay, this is the, I prefer to use this tool, because you now give them the reasons. You give them the reason why that tool works. But at the in the first instance, they are not the professionals. You are the professional. So it is your daily job. It's like when I went for my friend's wedding the other day. Did we really care what type of camera he's using? The camera person was using? No. But we just cared that the quality of the video, of the picture, was good, and that the cameraman was telling us, okay, this is the right way to, for your pose, stand this way, stand that way, and then we know that, okay, he is professional enough, because we saw the output and we saw how he was taking the job seriously, like how he was organizing us. Because at the end of the day, this web design is not just about the website itself. It's about everything. The whole development process is about everything. How you approach them, how you communicate with them, how you build the website, how fast you build the website, how you respond to their complaints and things like that. So everything is what combines together to show that you are good at what you do, basically. So yeah. Oh yeah. There's a question of, okay, name one person that sets his coffee by hand the old-fashioned way, even though that gives the coffee a better flavor. Yeah, so that's one. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. So, like, uh we're always thinking about, oh yeah, our code must be the most lean and mean code. It has to be as lean and mean as possible. I want to write hand code everything. But like, if you talk of coffee, how many people ground their own coffee themselves? Most of us use a machine, like coffee makers. We use instant coffee. At the end of the day, we're still drinking coffee. But if you want the best coffee, then you start thinking about all of these, going back to get the cocoa, the beans and everything. You have to get it from scratch, and the coffee beans, and then you ground it yourself, and you do the old-fashioned way. Uh, it is good. It is the best way, but that doesn't mean that, depending on the cost, the time, everything, sometimes might not be the best to use at that point. So yeah. Mm. Yeah, exactly like Toby says. The better way to put it, that the clients care that their businesses get better and they can meet their goals. So that's the main thing that the client care about. It's not really about um the tools that you use itself per se, but about the end result. So, but in reality, the tools, like, translate to the end result in some cases, but in other cases, you might even use the best tools. You might have a red camera and whatever the latest lighting that is in the world. You have the best studio, but if your team is not good enough to use those tools, you end up ruining the entire video shoot. But if you have the tools, if you have the tools, the right tools, then everything works. So, yeah, that is the whole idea, and that's the whole concept. But yeah, that's just all I wanted to talk about today, and I want to know your own comments. Thank you all for the comments that we had so far, and I'm really glad to have all of you on the stream. If you have any questions, any comments, please let me know in the comment section, and we will tackle those comments. And yeah, let me put that link again to the meetup. It's going to be happening next week. Please, I would like you all to sign up. Let's go ahead and make WordPress accessibility better, because Matt is the one who does the deciding. He's the one who decides the future of WordPress. So if we can give him the right direction to go with accessibility in WordPress, that will help everybody in the end. So yeah. So let's do that. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining in today. I'm really grateful. And yeah, the next live stream will be on my regular channel, and I'll be talking about bricks, because I'm still waiting for Buildarius to come up with the new update about the Buildarius new components version 2, and I might play around with Etch a little bit and see how Etch works for me, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah. I just saw a comment, yeah, for all of my Nigerian brothers. Yeah, so should we talk about Eba and Egusi? That's what I'm eating right now. So yeah, I think that we can keep that for later. Maybe we'll do a picture and post it as a final result of the food, if anybody wants to go and have a taste. Yeah. But yeah, thank you all. So I'll see you all in a future live stream. And as we always keep saying, we should always do positive vibes only. No negative vibes. Try to approach people in love. That's one comment that Anamike Bovele always tells me, that whenever I want to like rant or attack anybody, I should just take a step back and like just see, how can I approach this in a win-win situation? How can I approach this with love? If I can I not just reproach the person like in private? If it's not possible, then like give a nicer, positive way of like asking the question we've said here. Ask the person, okay, why did you choose to do it? Your whatever the solution you're providing to us, why did you choose this solution? The person will now be willing to tell you his view or her view or their view, and you can now come up with your own counter argument and say, okay, I've tried this other way. This other way is a little better. Can't you test it out? And then it will now be like a more like a nicer, more like you are involving the person in the discussion. You're now making the person to see the result for himself, rather than you just pouncing and say, oh, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, and so on. I do agree, like I said, we should use code, we should know code, but you should not just force it on people and say that's the only way. Like, yeah, that's just my own talk. Yeah. Erna, I'm not sure I'm going to do that. I don't want to drone anybody. I will happy life only. So thank you all. I'll see you all next week.